ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world show made for the fans by a fan. I am your host, as always, Richard Tiemann. This is Football and Nonsense. Happy Tuesday and happy beginning to the Fan Show week. That's right, this is the first of 3 episodes that you're promised each and every week here on the Fan Show, and we are in the month of December. Last week was my birthday week. I thank you all for the birthday wishes and everything else. The day didn't quite go as I had hoped, but, Justin Hellwich, former wide receiver for the Spokane Empire, put it into perspective for me. He said, not only is it a miracle to be born, but it is also a miracle to see another day that isn't promised, not to mention another year. So at 31, I have some perspective, some truth, some knowledge dropped on me by Mr. Justin Hellwich, and it was very enlightening, very humbling. So I'm just happy to be around another year. So here's to 32. And we'll see if we make it that far. We'll see if we make it to Season 4 of the Fan Show. And nothing is ever guaranteed, so enjoy each moment that you have. But we did enjoy several moments over the weekend. My, oh my. It was not all lost as far as, I wanted to go see the Foo Fighters last night. Did not score tickets. I was, however, if there's like a way to be cock-teased with tickets, that's what I was yesterday. I had been denied for a photo pass and what they call review tickets, where if you're going to go and see a concert and do a review for a paper or a blog or whatever. So I was denied for both of those. It was a long shot, but I appreciate the hardworking people at the arena, specifically Teresa Hudak, who has been my point of contact, who's helped me out a lot for just doing that for me. And it was low expectations, but I knew there was still a chance. Didn't happen, that's okay. Asked around. I pretty much hit up every one of my radio and arena contacts. No luck. This was a very hot item, and a lot of people are like, well, why didn't you just buy tickets earlier? Well, to be honest, we thought we were going to be living in Phoenix, Arizona this time right now. Probably October was when we had initially thought that we would be in that area, and we had been planning that since, I think, April, when the tickets first went on sale. I was like, hey, Foo Fighters are coming, but it's December. We're going to be gone by then. And she was like, yeah, don't worry about it. We'll catch them at a different date. And then we had completely forgotten about the show up until a few weeks ago, where we started to hear more and more radio promotions, ways you could win tickets, seeing the event reminder pop up. And then it was like, well, crap, we're still here, and I'd really like to go. So yesterday, I wake up, I post, hey, if you know anybody that can't go, hit me up, please. I'd really like to see the show. A friend of mine messages me. She's like, hey, I got a coworker that is selling tickets, but she's got 4 of them, and she only is going to sell all 4 together, but it's for like less than half the price of the ticket price she paid for. It's like, cool, yeah, let's do that. And I had a buddy who had replied to my post and said, yeah, me too, which was a surprise because he's a big Foo Fighters fan as well. So when that happened, I messaged him. I was like, hey, I got this line on tickets. Can you do 2? He's like, yeah, say no more. Messaged him back. Oh, well, my coworker said that they offered him to their IT guy first. I haven't heard back from him. They're waiting for his response. And I was like, I'm not like an expert at this, but normally when I need to get rid of something and get rid of it fast, I usually give it to whoever it is that gets back to me first, not wait for who I asked first. But it is what it is. The IT guy ended up getting them. I hope he enjoyed the show. I missed out. Literally everyone that I knew, including my friend who was in the search for tickets, ended up going except me. So it's a bit of a letdown, but hey, Sunday, my birthday game, though, oh boy, does it look like a bright future for the Niners. That will lead us right into today's headlines. And the headlines are that the Jimmy Garoppolo era is off to a great start. Not the greatest start, I'll say good. Let's go with good. And James LeBreton, who is my guest once again on the show, he comes on later on. I will have Coach Dixie Wooten on the show as well, head coach of the Iowa Barnstormers, because over the weekend the IFL had its annual coaches meetings, and I want to find out all about that. So he'll be coming up here probably in about the next 6 minutes, so I got to get through headlines quick. And but Jimmy Garoppolo, I said, him against the Bears, let's say 300 yards and 4 touchdowns. I mean, it was a stretch, but he finished with 293, so I was only 7 yards off there. And he had 0 touchdowns, but they had 5 trips to the red zone. And the stalling in the red zone, a lot was penalties. Some of it was dropped passes, but I think even more so, it was play calling, and I think maybe is it Shanahan's confidence or lack thereof in Garoppolo? But man, the guy was 100% on third downs, and it was amazing. So James LeBreton and I talk all about that on his segment coming up later on the show. But Eagles, they got grounded in Seattle by the Seahawks to the tune of 24-10. Carson Wentz had a great game, and he still continues his candidacy and campaign for MVP of the NFL. But Russell Wilson, man, he might have taken a stride either to tie him or go just past him in that particular race, because as much as I hate the Seahawks, and you guys, sometimes you confuse me with someone who's supposed to be unbiased when it comes to this, I'm not. I'm very biased. Okay, I'm a 49ers fan. I don't like the Seahawks, the Rams, or the Cardinals, or the Cowboys. But there are certain teams of those 4 that I can tolerate more so than others. Rams, I can tolerate them because I think they got a good thing going, and they got Cooper Kupp. Cardinals, yeah, I can tolerate them sometimes. Seahawks can't. Cowboys can't. And with the Seahawks, though, as much as I dislike them, it has got to be one of the most just intimidating experiences to go into CenturyLink playing another team with one of the best records in the conference, the league, right? And to do it in prime time. There's something about Seattle in prime time that they will make you earn every yard that you get in that game. So, what was it? 10-win streak, 9-win streak came to an end in Seattle. I don't think that this means that the Eagles are fake. I mean, they had up until that point only beaten one team with a winning record, but of course that can change week to week. You could look back at like the first quarter of the season and say that they played, they haven't played any teams or beaten any teams with winning records, but then by the end of the season, all 4 or 5 of those teams could end up having a winning record. So then your point seems null and void. Midway through, same thing. We're 3/4 of the way through the season, and they're looking back at the schedule. Carolina Panthers were the only team that they beat right now with a winning record, but how the season finishes and what it was at that point in time when they played each one of those teams, with the exception of the obvious, like if you played a New York Giants, which they have, or the 49ers, those are teams that, yeah, they had a losing record then, but still, it's subject to change, and it's something that is in the eye of the beholder. I still think the Eagles are one of the better teams in the NFC, but man, do the Vikings look scary, and I mean scary good. That defense grounded, and I mean grounded the Falcons, who looked like they had gotten it figured out finally on offense. Julio Jones came off a monster week, pretty much non-effective, and he's on one of my fantasy teams, so trust me, I felt that pain. But 9 points is what they held the Falcons to. They get the win. They are now the number 1 seed. And I worry, because you look at the remaining schedule, I worry that the Eagles could go from 1 seed all the way to number 3 or 4, because the Rams, they're not slowing down. They bounce back right away. They won as well against the Cardinals, yes, but still, it's how you come back from a tough loss against the New Orleans Saints. The Saints won as well against the hot Carolina Panthers in a really close, tough divisional matchup. So this is that time of the year where it's, all or nothing at this point. They say that, must-win games don't happen until It's you have to win this in order to get in the playoffs. These are must-win games for this final stretch. If you're a fantasy football player, it was a must-win game last week. Every game seems like must-win, but it's all about how you look at it. Cleveland Browns lost again. Chargers got their revenge for last year for being the only win that the Browns got. They could very well finish 0-16. It doesn't look good for them. Steelers and Bengals last night. Oh, that was ugly. 2 players carted off the field, one for each team. Ryan Shazier, very scary stuff, and then Vontaze Burfict, who some people say he got what he deserved. Gronkowski suspended 1 game. Some people say he shouldn't have been suspended at all. Some people say he should have been suspended possibly for the remainder of the season for the dirty hit. And yes, it was dirty that he put on the opponent. I forget the gentleman's name, but he gave him a concussion with this hit, this after the whistle shot that he took to him on the ground. And there's no place for that. And how many times have we talked about on the show a player's likability? Gronk is a likable guy. 1 game suspension. There you have it. It's a real thing in the NFL. I kid you not. It's a real thing in the world. If you think that there's real transparency, you're probably just lying to yourself. So that pretty much does it for the recap of the weekend in the NFL. Of course, the NFC North is going to be interesting. I think the Vikings have it. But when it comes to the rest, the Packers got a win, surprisingly. In the must-win game, the Redskins and the Cowboys, the Redskins got embarrassed by the Cowboys. 14-9 was the final for the Vikings-Falcons. 13-24, the Titans over the Texans. 30-10, the Jaguars over the Colts. 38-31. The Chiefs are pretty much done at this point. I don't think that they'll make the playoffs, and they'd have to win that division in order to do so at 6-6. But the Chargers or the Raiders might be the teams that are going to take that. But this was a game they needed to, and in all honesty, should have won. But hey, the Jets are no slouch either. 35-9 was the final for Miami over Denver. 26-20, the Green Bay Packers over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's right. Brett Hundley led the Packers overtime win, a walk-off touchdown. What a thriller. 23-3, Patriots over the Bills. You'd think that the Bills would by now put up a better fight, but they haven't. 44-20, the Ravens over the Lions. And like I said, this NFC North thing is going to be very interesting because this is a game, again, like with the Chiefs and the Jets. They should have won this. They needed to win this. Minnesota keeps on winning, and if the Packers do, Aaron Rodgers is going to come back before you know it, and then all hope is lost. But 24-17, the Raiders over the Giants. Ben McAdoo has been fired as well as their general manager. And that will do it for the headlines. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to bring up Coach Dixie Wooten of the Iowa Barnstormers right after this. You're listening to The F.A.N. Show, your home for all things football and nonsense. My special guest tonight, Farouk. Farouk, welcome.
He's no expert, but here's the thing. Football and nonsense is what he brings. Sports talk with a twist. It's the F.A.N. Show.
Do you know him as Kevin from the League? It is none other than very funny Steve Ranazisi.
99% of the population doesn't know who I am, but the 1% do. They yell and scream inappropriate things at me in public.
Kyle Ray. Kyle, welcome.
And I was like, wow, I think we just saw the whole Super Bowl, Phyllis. It was like that scene in The Simpsons, like, why rent the movie? I just saw the best part.
Funny man Brad Williams.
Yeah, I'm here. No, I flew in just for your podcast. I've heard about this podcast. I've heard it's fantastic.
It's Mac and Farva, but they are my special guests tonight. Steve Lemmy, Kevin Heffernan.
I was in Mexico for 10 weeks in a Speedo. Like, that was me going to work. I was putting on a Speedo.
Farva is the most fun to play, and it was a blast to do that again, to do Farva again.
So then the makeup artist had to put Vaseline on your body, right?
Yeah.
And then put the powdered sugar on top of that. Is your name really Richard Siemens?
Listen live every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday night on Spreaker.com or subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and SoundCloud. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back, and with me, because it is in the air, you can smell it, you can see it. IFL season is just around the corner, and we've got the reigning Coach of the Year, Dixie Wooten. Welcome back, Coach. How you doing this evening?
I'm good, man. Glad to be back. Like when you call me about your show, I'm always excited to be on your show, man.
Well, it's certainly a pleasure to hear that. I love it. I try to do the best job that I can. But, of course, being the reigning Coach of the Year, you did the best job you could, and it showed. You guys just got done with coaches' meetings. How'd that go?
Oh, it went great, man. It's always good to see, your coach, the other coaches in the IFL, man. Like I say, this year, our coaches, man, we have a great group. We got Coach Stout in Nebraska, Coach Riggs in Sioux Falls, and Coach Guy up in Arizona, man. We got, and the two new teams, they came in, excited. So it's going to be a great season.
Yeah, one of the things that I noticed when the schedule came out, and I don't know if you guys discussed this any further at the meetings, but it went down from 10 teams to 8, and you guys have 2 newcomers in West Michigan and Bloomington. But with that 8 teams in the league, you do get a 14-game season as opposed to 16, sometimes even longer depending on how many byes you have. But you guys won't play any team more than twice, and you usually play them at least 4 times usually. So how has that been received by everyone in the league now?
I think it's perfect. You play everybody twice. That's a great thing, man. Last year we played Green Bay 4 times, and every time we was nervous because you don't expect to beat somebody 4 times. But it's good for our fans because now they get to see every team in the league play at least once. So it's a great thing. Now, the schedule is strong, so nobody have a strength of schedule, so you have to win games to get in.
Yeah, so how does that tiebreaker work then down the stretch? Is there like a hypothetical that you could give us as far as what that decision would be like, and does everyone in the room understand how it works?
Yeah, if it comes down to a tiebreaker, now it goes to score. If you score more points than the other opponent, then you'll get in.
Okay. And to me, strength of schedule was always the hardest thing to gauge because, was it strength of schedule going into the season or now that the season is a wrap and all these different factors. I think points for and against is probably one of the better ways because, you guys are all on a equal and level playing field this year, and I think that that's fantastic for you guys. What were some of the things that got brought up that were different from last year to this year that either didn't pass or that we can expect to see in the game of play this year?
Of course, the referees was there as well. So we went over a lot of rules and things like that. Of course, we think we have a great game, so we didn't change a lot of rules. But it's all about protecting the brand of the IFL. So we want to make sure that we protect our players. So we put in a lot of things where we don't want our quarterback getting hit too late or things like that. So the big part of we wanted to protect our guys. So if we take a lot of helmet to helmet hits, we'll see a lot of flags on that. So it was more about taking care of our guys on the field.
A lot of you guys have connections, or you do participate in some college football, even professional football during that season. But you guys, it's sort of a benefit, I guess, having your season after the NFL and college regular seasons. Is there anything do you guys watch and take notes from the NFL and college football and say, that's something that we should bring up at the meeting that we don't want to have to worry about in our league?
Oh, most definitely. We talk about everything. Football is a copycat league no matter what league you're in. So, we watch a lot of things in the NFL and we see, some of the mistakes and then some of the great things that they do. And, as our ownership with our Barnstormers and me, we get together and we talk about things and make sure that, we harp on things and then we make sure that we don't talk about a few things, to make sure that, we take care of business because we know in our situation that, the fan participation is the most important. So we got to make sure that, we do things to make, the Mons community proud of what we're trying to do.
And how was the reception for the Bloomington Edge and West Michigan Ironmen coming into the league? I know that each one has sort of a history, but of course, everything can be different one year to the next.
Oh, Bloomington, around for a while, so we expect those guys to come in and understand what they're supposed to do. Coach Roy, he was a player in this league, so he knows exactly what to expect. And I think West Michigan, just seeing them at the meetings, they came in with a lot of great questions. So, I think they're excited about being in the league and, just being around some great competition and great coaching, man. So I'm excited for those teams. I don't want them to beat us now, but I'm excited for them.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what they bring to the table, too. I got to see Bloomington play in Bloomington last year before I came and saw you guys for your home opener in Iowa. And speaking of which, one place I did not make it to was your in-state rival of Cedar Rapids. What's the scoop on them? Did they have a representative as far as a coach of any kind at that meeting?
They didn't at the meeting, but they was on the phone with us the whole time, and they was full participation in the meeting. I think just hearing about Billy back going to the Cobras, in Carolina, I think that they're doing their homework, and I think they're going to bring in a great coach in Cedar Rapids. Just if you've been looking at the transactions, they're still getting some quality guys. So they're going to bring a good coach in to coach those guys, and they're going to figure it out, and I think they're going to have a great season too.
Now, there was a lot about that whole move from, for Billy back from the Cedar Rapids Titans to the Carolina Cobras, the new expansion team in the NAL. But, when you guys have these meetings and it's on the heels of something that either has happened or is about to that you guys all know of, is it something that gets brought up as far as like, hey, what can we do as coaches and organizations to avoid something like this happening at such a crucial time in the year next season?
We didn't bring it up once because at the end of the day, you gotta people do what's best for their families, even though, they make a decision that they have to live with. At the end of the day, I feel like, we just gotta keep it strong in the IFL. Right now, we just gotta think about how to make the IFL better. Unfortunately, it happened, but at the end of the day, we got to get behind as a league. We got to get behind Cedar Rapids and make them stronger as an organization. Because in a small unit like we are, we only strong as our weakest link. So we don't have time to worry about nobody that's outside the IFL. We just want to make the IFL stronger for the season.
Yeah, I completely understand. I think that's a good foot forward to put. Now, for you guys there in Iowa, what's been the favorite off-season acquisition or re-signing for you that's got you all jacked up as a head coach going into your second year as a head coach?
Man, just getting Brady and Ryan Valentine back. Those guys, man, are amazing players. So, and then another thing by getting Drew Powell as the quarterback. Now, we have a chance to be the number one offense in the league, and with Coach Marcus Coleman as our DC, and I feel like the defense we had last year, and we get the number one offense in the league, man, we have a chance to win the championship.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be a very exciting season. I haven't picked which date I'm coming to Iowa for, but I will be there again this year, so I'm excited for that trip. But you guys do so much observing of the college game because that's where you guys get a large crop of your players from is the players that maybe are looking for that kind of middle ground to get to the next step. So the question that I asked to you has been the big one over the weekend, the college football playoff. Did the committee get it right, and how would you fix it if they didn't?
They got it perfect. They got it perfect, man. I feel like Alabama. I feel like when Wisconsin lost, we're Twitter friends as well. So you saw that I picked. I told if Wisconsin lost, they was gonna put Alabama in. I feel like Alabama kind of stumbled on Auburn, but I think they are one of the top 4 teams in college football. So I can't wait to sit down and watch them play.
Do you like the 4 team, or would you bump it up to 8 or even 16?
No, I would do 8. Because I saw somebody put a bracket up with 8. 8 was perfect, and then that means you could put the top 7 in. Also, you can put in your team that's outside the Power 5 conference. You can also put one of those teams in as well. So 8 will be perfect.
All right, he says 8 is perfect and that he is all jacked up for the 2018 IFL season. Coach, any parting words for us as we get ready for the 2018 IFL season and the countdown continues?
Oh, man, I'm just excited about the IFL this year. I feel like it's going to be a great product to put on, in every IFL city, man. And like I always tell you, thank you again for just all the support and just following us around, man, and just understanding that you are a big part of the IFL success, man, and just keep on doing what you're doing, and your show is growing, and I'm a big fan of yours.
I always love to hear that, especially from the guys that, I appreciate. And you were so great to me last year, that whole organization. You guys are top-notch there in Iowa. So it's safe to say that this is Coach Wooten's favorite place for football and nonsense. Coach, you have a great rest of your night, my friend. Take care.
Okay, you two have a good one.
All right, thank you.
All right.
That was once again Coach Dixie Wooten of the Iowa Barnstormers. Very excited for the 2018 season. These coaches meetings, and we'll talk more about him. I've got Coach Rude from the Bloomington Edge coming up Thursday. That'll be a good one. It's very interesting to hear just what gets brought up and what doesn't. Coach Billy Back, who had initially agreed to be the new head coach for the Cedar Rapids Titans, is now the new head coach, official as of yesterday, for the Carolina Cobras, the new expansion team in the NAL, the National Arena League. And we will talk to him actually next week. If he can't come on tomorrow, we'll see what the schedules will allow. But for them to not bring that up at a meeting, very, very interesting stuff, because you would think that it's something that as coaches, and even though you're not front office or management necessarily, or even ownership, that you want to be like, how can we avoid something like this happening next year? And I don't know if there's a way that you can, because until there's once you sign on that dotted line, you're locked, which even when those are the case, it's not actually the case. But you'd want to try your best to just make sure that, the integrity of your league is at least as good as it can be. And I think that they've got a great league for this year. 8 teams, it's just enough. 14-game season, you're going to play each team twice. Everyone gets to see every team. I think schedule-wise, this is going to be one of their best seasons. Team-wise, we'll see. Every year yields different, powerhouse, as well as, a team that clearly has some ground to make up for. But, nobody takes the season off. They still compete each and every week. Green Bay Blizzard did it last year. Coach Williams is back. I'm excited to bring him on the show, probably at a later date, to talk more IFL. But got a great week of shows for you, and when I come back, my conversation with James LeBreton of SF Niner Noise and 49ers Web Zone. So don't go anywhere. We've got more of the Fan Show coming up after this.
This is The Sheet.
Gets me all revved up. My face is now red. My ears are just freaking boiling.
He's so raw that Scott hates him.
Yeah, he had 51 touchdowns. 4,900 total yards.
I know y'all like that, but I got to run. And only in Alabama that could happen, I have to say.
They're so good, man. They would win the Big Ten if they were in the Big Ten. You could be doing something vision-based in front of you and reach down and grab a handful of insane goodness.
Give it to him. Kudos. I'm clapping like a golfer. Very good, Johnny. I'm proud of you.
Wow. You guys agree on something again? I'm very impressed. You ever had a bad week? Just you walk outside, step in a puddle, like right when you walk outside. I mean, how's there a puddle right outside your house? Or you stand on the curb and somebody drives by and splashes water up on you? Or it's just raining on you, not anyone else?
I will tell you, before you go any further, I cannot hear Chad when he speaks.
Good. You're listening to The Sheet, man. I don't really know what we're doing.
Every Saturday morning, 8 to 10 a.m. right here on WBLZ Sports.
Whether it be your industrial, commercial, or residential needs, Gen Service is the electrical contractor for you. The Gen Service team has the expertise, commitment, and educational years to help you solve all your electrical concerns. They have you in their best interest with helpful suggestions to accommodate your every want. Give them a call, no matter the size of the job, at 740-438-7173. Mention WBLZ Sports, and you'll get a discount. That's Gen Service, 740-438-7173.
This is Nick Ciccarelli, the mad scientist of sports. Join me and Dr. D, Derek Jones, live every Saturday night, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Pacific, for the Mad Scientist Sports Lab. The big intellect, the experiments on the chalkboard, and the guest subjects will be rolling in. Mad Scientist Sports Lab, only on WBLZ Sports, where we got balls.
Doug Peffer Painting and Pressure Washing. He has over 30 years of painting experience. He's interior, exterior, commercial or residential. Doug Peffer covers it all. Is your house looking ugh? We'll call on Doug. Doug Peffer Painting and Pressure Washing. 404-966-3361. Mention WBLZ Sports and get a special We've Got Balls discount. That's Doug Peffer Painting and Pressure Washing. 404-966-3361.
Check out Thursday Night Tailgate, where NFL legends live on. We bring you 5 NFL legends every week, sharing their stories and insights, plus our spotlight on the positive. Hear which players are doing great things in their communities. Now on WBLZ Sports Talk Radio and WBLZSports.com.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the program of Niner Noise and 49ers Web Zone. It is James LeBreton. How you doing, James?
Great. How you doing tonight?
Doing great. So, like I said, Victory Monday. We don't get too many of those, but dilly-dilly nonetheless. It is the dawn of the Jimmy Garoppolo era. And before we get too into the detail and specifics of yesterday's matchup with the Chicago Bears, let's just get your overall feelings and reaction. Well, last time we talked, of course, we thought Seattle might be the game that he would start because it was fresh off the bye week. He didn't start, but we did see his first action and his first 49er touchdown. But now that he has officially started and looks to be on that course for the remaining games this season, your thoughts on Jimmy Garoppolo and the 49ers?
Well, the best way I could describe his performance was excitement, and I don't just mean on his part. I mean on everyone that had the pleasure of watching that game. It would be very easy to pick apart the performance based on the fact there were no touchdowns, but in an offense that's had nothing but problems all year long, so much, in fact, that they couldn't keep themselves on the field long enough to give that great young defense a rest. A guy who, in his first full start as a 49er and hasn't even chunked a large bite out of the playbook as of yet, marched his team down to the red zone 5 times, which yielded 5 field goals, of course. But the most important stat of the day for me was on third downs, Garoppolo 9 of 14, and it resulted in 8 first downs. And that's consistency, and that's what this team has been missing for a long, long time.
Yeah, it was certainly a nice change of pace to see some type of consistency come out of that offense. And, you know, not to take anything away from C.J. Beathard, I believe he was a tackling dummy who, you know, being such a young rookie, didn't see the whole field, only saw maybe his first read or two and then took off because he was running for his life. And one thing I noticed when Garoppolo stepped out there against Seattle, that touchdown that he threw, he never took his eyes off downfield. He extended the play, and he just looked really confident, really poised, and I liked what I saw. So as far as the Bears game yesterday, yeah, 5 red zone trips, 5 field goals. It was a little frustrating just because my prediction, I kid you not, I said Garoppolo versus the Bears. I'm going to say 300 yards and 4 touchdowns, and I was 7 yards off. He finished with 293, but man, with 5 red zone trips, if those all would have been, you know, touchdowns, I would have been more than dead on. So I think that's more play calling than Garoppolo, but it does take 2 as far as those third down completions. So props to his receivers, both Goodwin and Taylor, for making those grabs. I don't know if we'll get that lucky in the future, but this is something where if he continues to work the way that he did in preparation for that game and up to this point, and if Shanahan can kind of meet him in the middle, I think we can see a lot of progress for the last 4 games of the season.
Absolutely. You know, I mean, you got to look at it this way. I took the more conservative approach. I figured I think I said 325 in the yardage, only because I figured if he could move that ball, they would really start to gel. And I picked 2 touchdowns just because I figured first start, doesn't matter who you're playing, you know, you guys got to get on the same page. And my goodness, there was nobody more on the same page as Jimmy Garoppolo than Marquise Goodwin and Trent Taylor. I mean, those guys, there were a lot of people that made some key grabs there, but those guys were all over it. Trent Taylor had that really nice catch on that 3rd down and 9, and it kept the chains moving for us to win the game. You know, yeah, it would be great to see 3-4 touchdowns, but I got to be honest and say that if I saw 4 touchdowns yesterday and then next week I saw 1, it would be like a drop-off, you know, whereas instead I saw consistent play that moved the chains down the field, And the thing that impresses me the most about Garoppolo is he just doesn't seem to get rattled. You talked about Beathard earlier. I got a lot of respect for Beathard. That kid came into the system. He took the job from Hoyer, or was given the job from Hoyer. We weren't impressed with him behind center. But, as a rookie, my God, as a 10-year vet, anybody who takes shots like that, you got to tip your hat to. And Beathard, I hope that he sticks around. I hope that he doesn't get taken up in the next couple of years, because he is starter potential, and he will only get better. But with Garoppolo, the fact that he steps out of the pocket when he's being chased and then finds a safe haven and then is able to check the field again and keep his composure. The guy has an amazing release. He's poised. He doesn't let the defense depict what he's going to do. He finds a place to dump it off, and his eyes stay on his receivers, and you can't teach that. That's something that people in the league 10 years can't do. And Garoppolo, I'm not saying that he's the perfect quarterback. There's lots of work to be done. And it's amazing, because I've seen people say, well, can you imagine what he'll do next year when he has the chance to really get in that playbook and really start to take the offense under his wing? But, yesterday was an amazing foundation, and he's going to build on that and have a nice career.
Yeah, one thing I thought was interesting listening to the commentary during yesterday's game was someone said that in an interview that they did with Garoppolo, they said that him and Shanahan were on different pages, so to speak, because Shanahan was concerned that he hadn't learned as much of the playbook as he had wanted, and he likes to have all these plays at his disposal. But Garoppolo's big thing was asking him, let's focus less on the playbook and more like, what's our game plan? Like, how do we beat these guys on offense? And that blew me away, because that's something that like a vet would say, and it definitely sounds like something that came straight out of New England. So I think if they can get on the same page, then this offense could be a very scary thing, as long as they build a line to protect him that we see the rest of this season and of course next year.
Yeah, no doubt. Something else that sticks out for me is we talk about how he hasn't even really divulged in that playbook, and yesterday he connected with 8 different receivers. So this is already a quarterback who knows how to pass the ball around. Whether he was given 5 to 10 plays or 2 or 3, he spread that ball around. It looked like a different play every single time he threw the ball. The offense just seemed to gel better. They seemed to move the ball better, and that comes by being led by a quarterback who knows how to move the ball and plays with confidence and goes out there and says, listen, we need yards, we're going to get them.
Yeah, and by mid-third quarter, I believe, they had already passed their season high for time of possession, which I thought was great, because that's a battle that a lot of people won't think needs to be won, that in all honesty does for a team that's trying to work with a lot of young talent like the 49ers are. If you can control the clock and the line of scrimmage, you're giving your guys on both sides of the ball some much-needed rest and making sure that everything is set by their pace and their tempo, and that's something that I thought was a detail that went way overlooked yesterday, that time of possession. But Garoppolo took almost every shot over the middle, which is not something that a lot of young quarterbacks will do. They'll look for that one-on-one matchup down the sidelines and hope that their receiver comes down with it. But for him to pick apart the secondary with those, 9 to 12-yard passes and let the receiver do the rest, I thought was fantastic game planning. It marched him down the field. Yeah, it was field goals, but it kept the ball off of the Chicago offense and out of Trubisky's hands, who had marched down and scored a touchdown. So I think everything, with the exception of turning some of those field goals into touchdowns, went about as perfect as it could for Garoppolo's debut in Chicago.
Yeah, without question. You talked about the time of possession. I've been saying it for weeks, and it's not just me. Everybody knows that no matter how good your defense is, they're going to start to break down in the waning moments. So we've seen such great defense in the first half, and in the second half they tend to trail off because they're so tired, because they're not getting those breaks, because the offense is having a hard time moving the ball past 10 yards and getting a new set of first downs. And these are things that you have to do. The defense will win games for you, but you have to put points on the board, and you have to give them a rest. I think I want to say, I could be wrong, the defense played 36 snaps yesterday. That's huge. I mean, when's the last time the 49ers have only put their defense out there for 36 snaps? Those guys looked fresh the entire game, and that's because the offense didn't have a problem moving that ball. And the defense got to enjoy the game because they weren't so tired. Heck, they got to watch more than half of it from the sidelines. And that's a start. That's better than a place to start because, that's domination as far as I'm concerned. All year long, like you said, the time of possession has been against us. And yesterday, they owned it.
Yeah, it was great to see them win the chess game of football as opposed to the, who has the ball last kind of shootout form of football. But it was something where even when Chicago had the lead, when another team has had the lead and it's by, 10 points or more, it's something where I feel, well, if we haven't scored a touchdown yet, then we probably won't, and this is a bit out of reach. I wasn't concerned with that at all yesterday. I was really excited to see what Garoppolo would do when put, sort of behind the bullseye like that. And, of course, this is only his third official sample size as a full starter from, whistle to whistle and all 4 quarters of gameplay. But, of course, more and more film, especially with the Niners, will come out and people will start to see some tendencies. But this is a guy who I think is going to adapt and overcome when the defense adjusts. He'll get another big test against the Texans this next week, which is another tough defense. And then on the offensive side, Tom Savage has been serviceable, and they have some great weapons. So I think this is going to be another game that they will want to approach with, let's control the clock, let's control the line of scrimmage, and let's keep the ball out of their hands and in ours.
Yeah, that's the keys to the game right there. The one thing that may play a factor, it escapes me. I can't remember who the first, when Garoppolo played the first 2 weeks last year, I don't remember who he played, but the Houston Texans being an AFC team is probably a team that he's seen before, so he might have the tools to take him out himself. But that Shanahan playbook, like I said, the more he continues to divulge in that and process that and really start to make it his playbook, he's going to have a lot of success. And yesterday, with minimal plays, he went out there and did just that. So, my hat's off to him. Like I said, Beathard, great guy, great kid. He's going to have a great career, and I hope that we at least get to see the majority of that in the 49ers uniform. But, Garoppolo's a young guy too, and I don't see any problem with keeping him around for a long time. We talked about that long-term extension last time. If he didn't play, can they justify the long-term contract? A lot of people feel better about the possibility of that long-term contract because now you've seen him play. And not just a quick toss in the end zone in the waning minutes. It was a full game. You saw him march up and down the field with confidence, with poise. But a lot of people tend to forget the 49ers wanted Garoppolo before the season started. So for them, a long-term extension was more than merited by his short but very consistent play early on last season. It wasn't just, hey, we like Garoppolo, he looked good at Eastern Illinois, we think he can lead our offense. No, they went hard for him in the offseason, and the Patriots shut them down. You heard Lynch say that. This was something that we wanted to see come to fruition before the season started. So they've already thought about giving him that long-term deal. And, had he not played yesterday, I don't think it would have been a huge deal for them to just put him on a franchise tag. You get $115 million off the books next year that you can allocate elsewhere. I hope they beef up that offensive line, but now it's amazing. That offensive line had holes in it all year long. And yes, he was flushed out of the pocket on a couple different occasions yesterday. But the thing that impresses me the most is that he's so efficient. He makes that offense look so smooth. The offensive line almost looked like a different offensive line yesterday. I don't know if you noticed that. But every facet of that offense just seemed to be smooth. And the most problematic of areas, which is the offensive line, still looked consistent. And yes, with better, stronger offensive linemen, or however you want to, coin them, if they're better, if they're more skilled, if they're, pulling guards, whatever, what have you. But they're going to beef up that offensive line because now they know they have their guy and they need to protect their investment.
Yeah, and speaking of investments, you talk about the offensive line. Their running game really was almost a non-factor with the exception of a few not necessarily big gains, but serviceable gains by both Hyde and Breida. Now, I'm a big Breida fan. I think he's a great back, especially a great change of pace back. But, of course, Hyde is the guy. Granted, he can stay healthy for an entire season. They say with quarterbacks, if you have two quarterbacks, you really don't have any. With running backs, though, I think if you have two running backs, you have two great running backs. I'd like to see them keep Breida, but I don't know what the word has been about the running game for San Francisco. If it, long term for Hyde, if Breida has done enough to keep a solid roster spot or anything like that.
You know what? It's a tough call, and I see what you mean. When you're rebuilding, you want the best players out there. You want the best team, moving forward, because you want to produce wins. You're not there to lose. You're there to, whether it's a rebuild in the beginning, you're there to bring that team to the championship. And there are very few people in the NFL that have more heart than Carlos Hyde, and I really want to see him produce well. But I think Breida may have a step on him. You know what? It's tough, and I'll tell you why. It's been the no-leak system, right? You remember from the beginning, before the season started, it didn't matter what the question was or what was in the mind of fans. You didn't hear a peep out of that front office, and that was the most beautiful thing, because that's all you heard seasons prior was rumors and this, and the Harbaugh was going to be traded, and that ruffles the feathers of the locker room. You want cohesiveness across the board. And even if they said, hey, Carlos Hyde's not our guy, first of all, they're not going to tell you that. No good team would. But the morale of this team is so high, and they're such a tight unit, that even if you thought, hey, Hyde's doing horrible, it would probably shock you if they shipped him out next season. The biggest part of that is that this team, this is the happiest 2-win team I've ever seen in 30 plus years of watching football. It's because they're a tight unit. I mean, really, when's the last time you saw a 2-win team with such great morale? This is, dare I say, this is a family. These guys are going to bat for each other. You saw it a couple of weeks ago when Beathard got leveled and Hyde went nuts and John Lynch went out and shook his hand. And this is a team that is willing to die for each other. And you saw it again yesterday. You saw Garoppolo take that shot, and I think it was Goodwin who got in the defender's face. I mean, this team is living and dying for each other, and that's how you build a championship. That's how you establish championship culture. That's how you build a contender from the ground up. Yes, wins will come, but you can't teach people to be loyal, and this team is unbelievably loyal. And I'll say it again, I've never seen a 2-win team with such happiness. And these guys want to go out there and play football. They're playing like they're playoff favorites right now because they love who they're playing for. They have respect for John and Kyle, and I'm telling you, man, this is a very exciting time to be a 49er fan, to write about the Niners, to commentate about the Niners, because let's say I don't want to sit here and say they're going to win the Super Bowl in 2 years. I'd love to see that happen, but whenever it is that they hop over that hurdle and become that next level team once again, you're going to remember these times. Hey, man, they only won 2 games, but they were so happy because these guys were drinking the Kool-Aid. They believed what Lynch and Shanahan were building. And that is more important than 16 wins in a season. It's believing in this team. And these guys are going to go out. They showed you this. These guys are going to go out and get guys who believe in this system. Whether you're upset about the Bowman thing or not, whether you know everything there is to know about the Bowman thing or not, that didn't work out. All right, it's sad. We love Bowman. Bowman did a lot for this franchise. But they've, at the beginning of the season, went out and got Hoyer, and they said, yes, the search for the quarterback will continue. But when he didn't work, they shipped him out. They need guys who are going to play at a high level, but most importantly, they want guys who believe in what they're building.
Yeah, it's a team and a fan base that a week ago was mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, and yet somehow you couldn't find a happier fan base of a 2-10 team than the 49ers faithful right now. But for me, whatever happens in the offseason happens. John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan have earned my trust for probably a majority of their 6-year deals, with just what we've seen them be able to do with such young experience and limited time together during the season. Now, I know that Shanahan has a great relationship with Kirk Cousins, and that's still a big question mark. But for me, Garoppolo is not only the safe play, I feel like it's the better long-term investment for your franchise, and I think that Garoppolo has earned the right to be called that. I think he's a guy that you could call a leader in a locker room, a guy that the rest of the team is going to rally around. And I'm not saying that Kirk Cousins would be incapable of earning that from a team, especially if he performs well with Shanahan, but I think, why change a good thing that you have going now for something that you don't know is guaranteed to go that way for you next season?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It makes sense on a lot of levels. It makes sense because Garoppolo, I believe, is 5 years younger than Cousins. It makes sense because he's going to come at a cheaper price. Maybe not for long if he continues to win, but it's more conducive to this team's needs at this point. You have so many needs that you need to spread that salary cap around, and if you had to throw 25 a year to Cousins, that would take up a large chunk of it. Here's a story for you. I read it today, and I don't know how many people know about it. Yesterday, after the game, when they got on the bus, Marquise Goodwin was sitting in the front row of that bus, and when Garoppolo got on the bus, not only did they cheer, but Goodwin got up and gave him his front row seat. This is how much they love this guy. He went out there, he laid it all down on the line, he left everything on the field, he gave them their best possible chance to win, and they already respect him as a leader. If that doesn't say, I respect you as a leader, I don't know what does.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's going to be a great rest of the 2017 season with really nothing to play for except for a great preview of what could be to come for 2018. So the happiest 2-10 team and fan base you've ever seen in your life in the National Football League, and that's the San Francisco 49ers, led by new quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo. James LeBreton, always a pleasure to have you on the show. I enjoy talking 49ers, especially after a big win. So you, sir, have a great rest of your evening, and thank you so much again for your time.
You do the same. Thank you, and it's a pleasure. Anytime you want to talk Niners, we can do that.
All right, sounds good, my friend. Take care.
All right, bye-bye.
And once again, that was James LeBreton of 49ers Web Zone and SF Niner Noise. Very knowledgeable fan and analyst. Love, shooting Niners stuff here with him, especially in a positive way. And we haven't gotten a whole lot of that this season. But definitely looks like possibly the worst times are behind us. Who knows? We have yet to go 0-16. I hope we never do. But Jimmy G, the era has begun. And that's going to do it for this Tuesday edition of The Fan Show. Big shout out, before I forget, to handsome Jack Bramswig, now former wide receiver of the Green Bay Blizzard. He has signed with the Montreal Alouettes of the CFL. So congratulations, sir. You have definitely earned it. He has been officially invited to the show either tomorrow or Thursday to give him a proper send-off and congratulations, but I did speak to him yesterday when I heard the news, and I couldn't be happier for a guy. He's someone that, being up there in Green Bay, the Packers looked at him a lot. He was an impact player, definitely a guy that exudes leadership as well as just pure talent and skill, and I'm glad to see him make the next move up. If that's not the next move up, I don't know what is, short of signing with the NFL, which I'm sure is probably in his future as well. So congratulations to handsome Jack Bramswig. We'll do the list and the Butt Fumble Award tomorrow night, as well as it looks like I'm about to go and record my segment for tomorrow night as far as my special guest with Mark Istook. And then Thursday, head coach of the Bloomington Edge, Coach Rude, and we'll see if we have a second guest for you. But there's a lot to come on the Fan Show this month, the next month, and the next month as we get close to winding down the NFL regular season and continue the countdown to the indoor football season. So until next time, ladies and gentlemen, follow me on Twitter at FanShowOfficial, like me on Facebook, facebook.com/FanShowOfficial. And, of course, follow along on the Instagram and Snapchat. Both are The Fan Show. You can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, and iHeartRadio, as well as TuneIn Live, Spreaker.com, or thefanshow.com. Click the Live tab, and those are also your place for all of past episodes. The archives and what you missed are on Spreaker and thefanshow.com, which is what? Your home base for all things football and nonsense. 2 great articles came out today. One from your fantasy guru, the tight end whisperer, Brandon Raper, as far as those waiver wire targets that you should look for in probably your first week of the fantasy playoffs. And then, of course, Mr. Video Guy, Rich Bauer, with another great fanatical thoughts recap of this last weekend's action. So until next time, ladies and gentlemen, best of luck to you and yours. Go Niners, and remember, of course, it's all fun and games until you butt fumble. Good night, folks.
Do you remember the time that Mark Sanchez ran into his player's butt? That was funny sports.
Thank you for having me on the show, man. I love the Fan Show.